Maggrat and Zayda are two of the most overpowered heroes that have ever been in the game Call of Dragons. They are almost 2 times better than any other hero pair in the game currently in terms of merit and trading. So today we're going to talk about Powercreep and what to expect for the future of Call of Dragons. So as you can see here, this is obviously an insane report from one of the biggest and best player in TFS, CoD, which is 140,000 merit. And this is open field fighting. There is no rally, there is nothing such. As you can see, he is just simply attacking people and trading excessively well. Many of them are T4, many of them are also T5. It is a bit of a mix. And it is pretty incredible how much this March is great in this game currently, as well as much better than Sindri and Freygar and any other March in the game, bar none. There is really no one close to them with long-range warfare especially. This is insane amount of merit gain because, of course, as you guys know from the Maggrat kit, there's a lot of healing, which means you can stay in the field for longer and get much better report. But even without the healing, they just simply hit harder than any other hero in the game. Now, this is another report. As you can see, it's still just as high, 94,000, which is insane amount of merits. And there is dozens and dozens of these reports, even though you can see if we look at the Legion buff here, that this is a 5-5-5-1 Maggrat and a 5-4-3-2 Zayda. So none of them are awakened. They do have obviously the new artifact, but the artifact isn't giving any merit. It is just giving the stats, and you can't really use it long range because it has a short range. So this is not really even a big deal. It's obviously still very good, but you can see that the Nitroc only has 1 star. So this is not even the optimal March. You could have them both awakened and have a obviously 2-star Nitroc and a lot of extra stuff to make them even stronger. So this is absolutely groundbreaking how strong this March is without even being maxed. So when you are using Zayda and Maggrat, obviously Maggrat is the first hero because she has access to the precision tree, which enhances normal attacks, which is what you are doing using these March, as they all are normal attack damage bonus focus, same as Syndron really. And you will see that in the precision tree here, there's this thing to give a chance of an additional normal attack, which is obviously amazing, as it is a very, very high damaging attack when you have these two in your March. And you also see that this ability gives a 450% damage bonus attack, which is basically a normal attack that does almost 5 times normal damage. And this happens pretty frequently, as you will be gaining variable healing basically every second. So this will happen basically every 5 seconds. And there's also a pet that gives variable healing as the steadfast chain strike ability, which you can put on a pet, and this gives another variable healing trigger source. And there is just quite incredible amount of synergy you can have with them. Now, Maggrat only has these first 3 skills, which give, a lot of normal attack damage, a lot of HP. And then this also is obviously going to make it so that there's variable healing gain. There's a chance of gaining 20% attack for 3 seconds. Now it's going to be 40% at max stack, and you're going to be gaining this every second. So this is almost 100% uptime. So a 40% attack here. These are very, very, very powerful. Now, the last one is about Garrison, which most people won't care about because it doesn't really exist in Call of Dragons other than for passes and Roots of War. And the last, the Awaken skill, which is good, is basically just a 50%. So it goes from 450 to 500 on the main skill. It's a boost, but it's so minimal that you really don't need to invest these points, and you save almost 300 tokens by not awakening her. And using her, you're almost at 95% potential with just 5-5-5-1. So this is really, really advantageous to help us save on tokens and have an insane March nonetheless. Now, when we go to Zayda, this is where it really shines. Of course, Zayda is going to have this Dawn Watcher's mark, which is for 5 seconds up to 10 stack. With 10 stack, you gain 80% normal attack damage bonus. Now, this is basically up all the time, on top of having 20% move speed, so a huge amount of move speed. And this basically is whenever you do normal attack damage, you gain 1 stack. So you're going to be doing normal attack damage every second forever while you're in combat. And these stacks are lasting up to 5 seconds. So basically, it is going to be pretty easy to stack it up and have the 80% or close to it for most of the combat. You can also pair it with Syndrian, which does more normal attack damage, which also works really good with Zayda. But really you just have to think of the main damage that you do is 100%. A critical rate hit is 150% ish. So this is 180% basically at all times after the charge up. which means that you're basically every auto attack that you do, every normal attack is like a crit with more damage than a regular crit. Now you can still crit on top of that. So the 180 is then multiplied by 150 to do even more damage. And she does provide up to 25% crit on her last skill. So you can see how the synergy of this combo is just absolutely nuts. And then when you pair with Maggrat, who has a lot of boost for normal attack damage, for HP, for attack, as well as the 450% nuke normal attack. So you're doing a nuke of 450% on a 180% damage boost bonus already. And then if you crit on the nuke, well, the damage is just insane. You will basically, I've seen people do like 30, 40, 50,000 like damage, normal attacks, crit or normal hits on like a T4. There's also obviously more damage, more healing receive, which obviously works well with Maggrat. And then there is more physical attack and more march speed, which is also very, very good because march speed will allow you to go in and out of combat and target some marches very quickly. And open field is all about march speed. And then as we said, there is crit. This is very, very good because 25% crit is huge. You basically crit 1 of 4 attacks. And these are going to be hitting for so much harder than many people's skills, basically. Like skill damage, this is going to hit almost as hard as some skill damage from other heroes. So it's quite incredible. Her awaken is very decent. Not necessary, it's not as required because it is basically you gain 3 seconds of normal attack buff. But once you have the buff max, it's easy to keep it pretty full. But this still obviously helps a lot. It's just that entering battle happens once every few minutes in combat. You basically don't really exit battle often, so it's not the biggest awakening in my opinion, but it's still very good. But as you saw from the reports earlier, you don't really need the awakening to get this march to really shred. Now Zayda with Syndron as primary also works, or Maggrat Zayda, and even Zayda with Freygar would technically work as well, but there would be a lot of mobility there involved, of course. But you really like the precision tree talent because it is all about normal attack and that's all they do. So this is where you're going to be trying to focus as the primary, having precision for these marches. Now looking at a report again that I was given by Saad, this is his 4 march ball. So he has these 4 heroes marches who are obviously all long range. So they have the exact same range and they can stack on top of each other and attack the same targets. So there is no difference in uptime. Almost all these marches are attacking at the same time and retreating at the same time. They're all stacked on top of each other and basically attacking the same target. So the merit gain, while it can vary, is a pretty sizable way of showing that these 4 marches on equal setting, this is how much merit they're earning. Now, of course, there is subjectivity here. It's not always going to be like this, but this is something that we've done quite a few times and I've checked with a few other players and it is pretty much always the same. Now, out of these 4 marches, this obviously Maggrat Zayda is almost always earning something like 60 to 90% more merit than any other marches. No matter if you're attacking the same target or not, it's always going to be higher. This march always gains more merit, which means they do more damage. It doesn't matter. Of course, you could do maybe more AoE with this march and gain a little bit more, but this is also another very single target march, which is in a bit separate. But Bertrand and Tohar currently, even though there's no Tohar here, they are better than they ever were before. They have been significant buffs to both Tohar and Bertrand, which I spoke to about in another video, but they are very powerful right now. And you can see that Syndron, Freygar, and the Lily Velen are at pretty regular amount of damage. This is still very good amount of merit considering the HP they had. But you can just see that Syndron is just nowhere near this march. This Maggrat Zayda is earning almost consistently 60 to 90% more merit than any other march when attacking at equal value. Even people with 5-1-1-1 Zaydas and Maggrat have been getting as good reports as some Syndron Freygar that are completely maxed. Now, as you see, every hero on this page is maxed except these 2. So these are not even awakened. And Zayda awakened is a big difference because not of the awakened, but because of the other skills being maxed. All her skills are so powerful that she would gain a tremendous amount of damage extra by being awakened. Now, if you look here, this is the exact same 4 marches and the HP they had when these screenshots were taken. So they all had over 10,000 merit. This one had almost 20,000 merit and you can see it's almost full HP. Because of course of the healing, it makes it so it sustains very long, but even then, not many marches are taking a lot of damage, but it just shows that it is insane how much better this new Archer march is than the previous marches, which takes me to my next point, power creep. So as someone who's played Rise of Kingdom since the beta, the very first days of Rise of Kingdom, I have seen this happen already many times and it is not new. But the theory behind these games is that every new season for G1, G2, G3, and it's going to go up to G10, G20 eventually if this game lasts long enough, you will always find that the later versions are better than the previous versions, and this is obviously a given, but it is also something that is going to change drastically the way we invest and play in this game, because if you are going to go max out and use, you know, a medium or low spender amount of savings into a Archer March, and then 6 months later a new March comes and makes them completely obsolete and is insanely better, just like this exact situation right now, well, it is going to be a bit hard, and some players will be discouraged by that and will quit and stuff like that. So this is kind of what I want to talk about. Now, it is to be expected now that in the G3 category, every one of these new heroes should be drastically better than the previous G2 and G1, because Zayda and Maggrat have kind of paved the way. If the next, for example, Cavs that are going to come out probably next, the next two heroes most likely should be Cav. If we're following the same logic as G2, it should Archer, Cavs, Inf, Mage. Should be similar, or at least the same, I think, in my opinion, because that seemed to be how they release the city skins as well. But really, it should mean that the next two here would be drastically better than the previous ones and on the same power level as these guys, which means the infantry and the mages eventually, which will come probably last, should be insanely better than the previous versions. Now, it doesn't mean always, because there are always going to be a few heroes here and there that have very niche roles and that won't see a lot of play. At least in Rise of Kingdom, that's how it was. Out of the 8 new heroes, there could be 4 or 5 insanely OP ones and 3 situational or very bad ones. Is kind of something that we've seen before. But it is something that you do have to prepare for, because of course, when you do have G1 and G2 and G3 sculptures, you don't really have any point into investing anything else. These tokens are only good for the heroes that they are in, you know, the same category. So you're gonna be spending on these G2 heroes, these tokens, and so on. But you do see that there is these legendary hero tokens that are basically universals. They're not attached to any specific generation. And this is really where a new player, a low spender, or even a whale will have a very, very strong advantage by saving these for the longest time possible. So in my case, you can see that I have almost 600, which is almost enough to max out a full hero from 0 to Awaken. And I am not spending them, and I have been saving them since the very beginning of this game, exactly for this reason, because I knew this would happen one day. Meaning that when, for example, the G3 mages come out, I will be able to max them out right away and have a huge power spike in the field, because obviously these tokens, unless you're pay to win and you're buying a ton of packs, they are hard to come by otherwise. These legendary hero tokens come from many different places in the game, but they are pretty rare. They come from special events and spending events and stuff like that, when otherwise, like for example in the VIP shop, you will be able to buy these guys, but they're always going to be the season that you're in. So this is obviously a good buy. It is, in my opinion, the best buy you can make in the game currently. But if you want the universals, you're going to have to find them in other places. And this is kind of what I'm getting to, is that if you can, I would recommend you save these for as long as possible, because the longer you save them for, the better the hero you're going to be able to spend them on. So this is just a bit of a PSA on that situation. Let me know what you think about Zayda and Maggrat currently and the power creep. Obviously, it is scary to think that every new hero is going to be so much better. I do think new heroes should be better a little bit, but not 80% better. You know, 20% better would be a much better way of having it. But let's see the way the game heads in the future. Obviously, there's a lot of new stuff coming up in the future, a lot of exciting things, and a lot of things that make it look exactly like Rise of Kingdom. So we'll have to see exactly how that goes. In Rise of Kingdom, a lot of the new heroes are usually completely ignored because only a few of them are really, really good. And sometimes you'll have old heroes that haven't been played for months or even years, that a new hero will come out and will pair excessively well with the old hero. For example, it could be that someone pairs incredibly well with Kinara, and suddenly Kinara is now a top tier hero again. This does happen sometimes with new releases. So for example, Zayda with Syndrian will, in my opinion, be a March that will see a lot of play in Behemoth in the future, even though Maggrat is so strong right now that I'm not exactly sure how that will go, because obviously people are still maxing out their Zaydas and stuff. But we'll have to see. Keep tuned on the channel for more updates about this. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.